This is an ADC warning. The crimes you're about to see are true. Only the names were changed to protect the ignorant. Tonight, on America's Dumbest Criminals, a DUI with a W.I.F.E, a comically disabled criminal, and a traffic temper that goes wrong. These are just a few of America's Dumbest Criminals.
Welcome to America's Dumbest Criminals. I'm Daniel Butler. You know, very often, as we examine a criminal plan more closely, we find that there is no plan to examine. You're about to meet those planners, the elite of the criminally inept, as we open the files on America's Dumbest Criminals.
Our first story is about a dumb criminal who hung around way too long.
A former police officer owns a store up here on Parkway East, and they got robbed, and the clerk said that the first guy was in there, was doing all the talking and everything. He did all the talking, took the money and everything, and left out, but he forgot the other robber was still inside. And said they came back inside to get him, said, "Come on, let's go, let's get out of here, because so-and-so's out here waiting for us." And so he started back out the door. And so the guy's still sitting there mumbling, holding a pistol up, saying something, looking around the store, whatever. So they had to come back in a third time, you know, to finally get him out of there and take him off. And that's how the clerk identified him.
So he just forgot to leave the scene of the crime. In Ohio, it used to be against the law for a woman to be a bellhop. She can, however, legally do a belly flop. And now, a case we call Skunk Driver from Wilton Manors, Florida.
I was driving up 26th Street one day, and I saw a man and a woman going up the road in a car, and he was kind of all over the road. And he didn't have a seatbelt on, neither did she. So I pulled him over, and he started getting real indignant with me as to why I pulled him over, asking me, telling me that he didn't do anything wrong and wanted to know why the hell I pulled him over, and he was pretty nasty about it.
Yeah, man, here's the license, all right? I'm just here minding my own business and talking, hanging out with my lady, trying to have a nice time. I'm a taxpaying citizen. Can I do that?
I wasn't getting anywhere with him, so I asked to talk to her. And as I'm talking to her, he still keeps yelling at me. And so I said to her,
"Ma'am, what's wrong with him?"
She said, "Never mind him, he always acts like that when he's drinking."
What? Wait a minute, what the hell you mean?
You are on my last
What are you talking about?
You are on my last
That don't make any sense. Shut up! Look, I don't know what
And now, actual surveillance cam footage of a dumb criminal who dropped the ball and the gun. The man shown here had robbed 4 banks successfully. In each one, he was armed, but no one was hurt. Then finally, just after his 4th successful bank robbery, he made the mistake of choosing to rob a grocery store. When he robbed the manager and he bent down to pick up the bag of money, his gun dropped from his hand, slid across the floor right to the manager, who picked up the dumb criminal's gun and held it on him. He was arrested, taken away, and convicted, and he'll be away for the rest of his life. And now, a man who is about to learn not to throw temper tantrums the hard way.
We were working in unmarked cars and plain clothes. We just left the precinct at a roll call. This person just pulled right out in front of us running a red light. So we pulled up to the next red light with him, and we had a handheld blue light that you put on top of the roof of the car, but I just put it in my hand and turned to the guy and I said, "Please, sir, watch the light." Well, he kind of got mad at us, and he started cussing at us and mouthing off and shooting us the bird. And I just turned and I said, "Sir, just watch the lights." Well, he reached under his seat, pulled out a gun.
You watch this, that's right. Run, you bunch of hillbillies.
And kind of pointed it to us and said, "Why don't y'all come back here and tell me what to do?" So, you know, he didn't know who he was pointing the gun to, so all 3 of us jumped out. He saw all these badges, and he just threw that gun almost through the window, put his hands through the ceiling almost, and his eyes were so big, and ended up putting him under arrest right in the middle of the street.
Interesting how the man's face went from red to yellow to green. ADC quiz number 1702. A Texas man convicted of robbery worked out a deal to pay $9,600 in damages in lieu of jail time. Did he A, renege and skip town, B, write the court a forged check, or C, rob a bank to pay it off? The correct answer is B. He wrote the court a forged check. His third mistake was trying to escape from the 4th floor of the Lubbock courthouse on a bicycle. Coming up, a dumb criminal who has his application denied and his summer vacation foiled. Welcome back. Our next case is from Denver, and we call it K911. A guy had the bright idea to rob a market. Everything went according to plan except the part he didn't plan. He robbed the clerk at gunpoint, then he started to run back to his truck with the money. But as he ran to jump in, his dog jumped out. The dog ran around, and the robber could not coax him back into the truck. With the police on the way, he was forced to leave the scene of the crime without his dog.
So this guy comes in, goofy-looking guy, bad hat, big thick glasses. Hits me for about 200 bucks, goes to jump in his truck, and his dog jumps out. That's his dog.
Good boy.
Sure enough, the dog wouldn't come back to the dumb criminal, but it would come back to the police. And his name and address was on the dog's tag. Maybe the dog should take this guy to obedience school. In Texas, it used to be against the law for more than one train to cross at the same crossing at the same time. Unless, of course, one train was being pulled by a team of lovely waitresses serving hot wings. J.D. Roberts of Brunswick, Georgia, had just led a successful raid in which hundreds of pounds of pot were confiscated. As Officer Roberts stood in the driveway behind a marked car, a pickup truck pulled up.
I think you're still selling. Is he still selling, Henry? Sure. Cool. Right on around back.
The two men had just asked narcotics agents with police stenciled on their backs if the man was still selling dope. They sent them around to the back door.
Got a buyer coming back. Hang on.
You're kidding me.
Hey, Mike. Hey,
Hey!
Where's Mike?
Guys, Mike stepped out for a while, but I think I got what you need. Cool. Yeah.
oh man,
How's this look?
check this out.
Right there?
That's killer, man. Smell that.
Smells good, doesn't it?
Yeah. How much you got of this?
Got all of this. How much you got?
I got $60.
How much?
60.
That'll do.
That's great, man. Here you go.
Yeah, okay. Good. Here, take some more.
Thanks.
Yeah.
They arrested the men, confiscated their pickup, and impounded it in the backyard when another vehicle pulled up.
Just leave your car here and we'll take care of it for you.
The entire thing was being captured by surveillance camera.
Right on around back there.
Watch my car now, all right?
You got. Hey, is Mike still selling? Oh yeah, got it right there.
The police could not get away from the house. They came on bicycles. They came in cars. They came in pickup trucks. They came on foot. But they came to buy. Each vehicle was confiscated and each buyer arrested until the backyard was almost full.
Mike still around back?
Yeah, he's running a 2-for-1 special. You better hurry.
Oh, thanks.
The police arrested 35 people, impounded 12 cars, 2 trucks,
Hey, tell me Mike's still selling?
Yeah, right around back. I can watch the board for you.
No way.
and a skateboard. And now, actual surveillance cam footage of one of the dumbest groups of dumb criminals in America. What do all these people caught on surveillance camera have in common? They all applied for disability, but then were caught on tape hard at work. This man was paralyzed. His back pain was so great he couldn't even set foot out of bed. But there he is, carrying heavy pipe and digging a ditch. This man could also not even lift a phone because of his pain, and yet he could do your muffler work. This woman couldn't even hold a coffee cup, but she could move a load of hay. And this man was a roofer, but he said he could never work again until they caught him on videotape. Next up, David Hunter tells us about an unusual job applicant.
A young man walked into the Knox County Sheriff's Department. He had applied for a job as a security guard, and he'd been given a piece of paper to fill out to show he had no criminal history. When the clerk put his name and birth date into the computer, a warrant for armed robbery popped out. The young man apparently realized that something was wrong.
What's going on here?
So he fled on foot. But another officer on his way to work saw the vehicle pull into traffic. And when he got him stopped, had him on the ground, of course, in a felony stop, cuffed him, and as they got into the car, he turned around to the officer and he said,
"What'd you get me for this time?"
"Well, when you filed for a job at the station, we found an armed robbery warrant for you."
Is that all? Can I still get a job?
"I don't think so."
Oh, man. There goes another summer.
That's right, no summer camp, summer workhouse. In Massachusetts, it used to be against the law to walk across the street. However, flying like a bat was allowed. And now, inside the courtroom for trial and error. An officer on the witness stand describes how a diversion tactic really backfires on some dumb criminals.
Officer Monroe, how did you apprehend the defendants?
Well, ma'am, we never would have if it hadn't been for the crowds.
Crowds?
Yes, ma'am. When the perpetrators exited the crime scene, they attempted to create a diversion by throwing some of the stolen cash from the window of the van.
Did that work?
Well, not really, because, you know, soon after that, they were mobbed by angry people trying to get their hands on some more of the cash.
There you have it.
Yes, ma'am, there you have it.
When we come back, a dumb criminal who wasn't very photogenic on America's Dumbest Criminals. In fact, Thomas Pennington of Las Vegas, Nevada proves that being a desk sergeant is not all that boring.
I was working the desk as desk sergeant downtown at City Hall. This guy walks into the desk and he says that the detectives were by his house and he didn't know why they was there, and then he's supposed to contact them. And I go, well, I don't know which detectives, you know, who was that? And they go,
they were narcotic detectives.
Really?
Yeah.
What makes you think that?
Now, see, I was in a little trouble in California, but I haven't been in any trouble in Nevada, so you shouldn't be looking for me.
And they go, well, hold tight and I'll see you now. What's your name? He gave me his name and stuff, and I go, I'll call over the detective, and I called over the narcotics detectives, and they go, Tom, grab this guy. He's got $1 million warrant for his arrest in California. And I go, well, here, the detective wants to talk to you. And as he's talking to the detective, he's sort of engrossed in the phone call, and I walk around from the desk and around behind this guy, and everybody else is standing around in the desk.
Oh, well, thank you. It's about time somebody apologized.
Put your hands on the
what the
desk.
hell's going
You're
on?
under arrest, Torian.
What am I under arrest for?
Well, you had $1 million warrant for your arrest in California. He goes,
But this is Nevada. Damn.
he just couldn't seem to understand that because he was dealing drugs in California and had a warrant in California. Didn't seem to comprehend that we could arrest him here in Nevada.
Out of state, out of mind. In Vermont, it used to be against the law to drop rocks from an airplane without permission. But you could pick up maple syrup from a convertible without asking. Mike Thompson of Pensacola tells us about a dumb criminal who can't say cheesehead.
Several years ago, I was assigned to the Armed Robbery and Burglary Task Force here at the Pensacola Police Department, and we received a call that there was a burglary in progress at a residence on the west side of town. And shortly after entering the residence, I noticed that they had an alarm system that activated when you broke the light beam, and it makes a clicking noise. So I went on to the back of the house and shined my light underneath the bed in the bedroom, and I saw tennis shoe soles facing me, and as if the suspect was laying down underneath the bed.
Tommy? Is that you?
Get your hands on top of your head.
Hey, Mike, is that you? Yes, Tommy, and you're under arrest.
After a brief discussion, he asked me, did a neighbor call in on him? Is that how we caught him? And I said, yes, in fact, because I didn't want to disclose the fact that the individual that owned the house had an alarm system, a silent alarm system.
Well, I heard his camera clicking out here, but I didn't give it much thought. It's too dark out here to take pictures. The guy must be really stupid. Thinks he can take pictures in this life.
I said, you know, I'm sure he never even thought about that. I'll get up with him.
In this surveillance cam footage, an officer proves you can't count on the dumb criminal who can't count. This is a hidden camera of a drug deal going down. The man on the left is an undercover narcotics officer. The man on the right is a dumb criminal. Unfortunately, the dumb criminal is the one counting the money. Outside, 8 SWAT team members are ready to make the arrest as soon as this dumb criminal finishes counting his money. Okay, he lost his place again. Now, as soon as this man finishes counting the money, the SWAT team will move in. Okay, now, I think he's finished counting the money. Yes, okay, he appears to be leaving. Now, the SWAT team comes in, forcing him to use a calculator. You know, we've talked to many policewomen involved in prostitution stings, and they all tell us the same thing. After the men are arrested, one of the first questions they ask is my wife going to find out? Because most of them are married. But one married man barely had time to ask that question in a case we called Wedding Night Blues.
And we had one, a guy drove up well-dressed in a tux.
He was well-dressed, and why not? It was his wedding day. Folks, this record-breaking winner is a real loser.
I think he'd been married about 4 hours. And he's on his honeymoon going to get beer, and he propositioned me. And we got him.
I think you'll agree the honeymoon is definitely over, and this criminal is one of America's dumbest husbands. In Pensacola, Florida, a dumb criminal picked himself out of a lineup.
We had an informant that supplied us with a lot of information and would call us whenever he knew something that was fixing to go down that we were interested in. And one day, we went out and did some just street-level crack cocaine buys, and we were attempted to video all the transactions. Well, most of them came out really good, but got cloudy, and there was a couple of the buys on there that you didn't have a real good facial on the suspect, on the criminal. So what I did is I called this informant, told him I needed him to come in and look at some pictures and see if he could identify these people for me. And he comes in, and I plug in these videotapes, and the first one he looks at, he said, "Man, how'd y'all get me on camera?"
Oh, man. How did y'all get me on camera, man? That's me. Check that out. You know what? I look good enough to be on cops, don't I? Yeah. Oh, boy.
And I look at him, I look at the TV, and it was him. He was the one selling the dope. The next 2 videos I pulled out, they were also him. He identified himself in all 3 of them. So we had to arrest him. It was hilarious. And we did not have a clue that that was him till he identified himself.
As always, we're out of time before we're out of crime. Our thanks to the men and women of law enforcement. Until next time, I'm Daniel Butler saying, don't be dumb, don't break the law. We'll catch you next time on America's Dumbest Criminals. Good night.